Hey everyone, I'm Elizabeth White, and I'm so happy to be back in Liz's room for 2024. Today with me, I have someone who is the epitome of a true musical talent. The Jersey native started playing the drums at the age of 3, started singing at the age of 7, wrote for artists like Chris Brown. He was nominated in 2021 for Best New Artist at the Soul Train Awards. His latest album, POV, came out last year, which features songs such as Girls Like You, Lonely, and I Need You. He has an R&B sound that you just don't get tired of hearing, and he's very handsome. So without further ado, I welcome you all, Tone Stith.
What's up?
So I don't know if you remember, but I actually met you for the first time back in 2022 at a Fashion Week event, and I told you I was going to interview you, and I didn't know when, but here we are a year and a half
Here
later.
we are.
You were in a group in high school called
Mm,
SJ3 and was soon
I
discovered by
was.
Just Prince, who we all know was the driving force behind Drake's earlier career. Now, he says you remind him of Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, and Prince all in one. And you've said yourself that Prince and Michael were two artists that influenced you.
Yeah.
So those are some pretty big names. So I'm just wondering, what parts of them do you see in yourself, but also what separates you and makes you Tone Stith?
I think for me, it was the fact that I was introduced to them at such a young age. So really, I was put on the Prince and Mike's music around the age of 8. And I think just at that age, I was very impressionable. You know, you're learning things about life, you're going through life, you're figuring things out. So as a music, as I was growing and getting older, I would just always listen, and then imitate. So I feel like from Prince, I gravitated to his falsetto when I really discovered my falsetto. And that really helped me kind of just make it into what it is now today. And just really listen to how he sang. You know, I think he doesn't get enough credit for his vocal abilities because Prince is a singer. And so I really paid attention to that with Prince. And then for Mike, it was just his execution is what always captivated me. It was the fact that even in his singing, his dancing, his visuals, even Prince too, and his visuals too. But Mike was just such a perfectionist in a way that his execution was always, you knew it was going to be executed a certain way every time. So for me, that played a big role in my career, and I'm still developing that as I go. But it's all about execution. It's all about like vocal choices and things to. One thing I forgot with Prince, I'll say he manipulates his voice a lot, which I love, and sings with a deeper tone too, also. So as I get older, you know, my voice is not as high as it used to be. So it's kind of helping me discover new things about my voice. So they played enormous roles in my career and just making Tone Stith who he is.
Now, I know you stated in a previous interview that there are a select few that can do stadiums with R&B music. I don't know, do you think it's the genre itself that makes it hard for artists to make it to stadium status with R&B, or it's the way we consume music? Because whether it's Instagram or, mainly TikTok, we consume
Mm.
music with what's catchy, but that only lasts until the next trendy sound or song comes out.
Yeah. This year, I'm very much so on the course of. I made it my duty is to remind the world that Black music is everything. It's all types of music. It's rock and roll. It's blues. It's country. It's everything. I feel like R&B gets slighted in the fact that people put it in this genre where it only sounds a certain way and that's it, and that's R&B. But they forget that R&B is involved with pop. R&B is involved with all these different genres that get all this notoriety, and these genres where a lot of the artists sell out stadiums, but R&B music is the most influential part in all those genres. So for me, I'm really making it a point in my career to let it be known that hey, Black music is all this music, y'all.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. But when I'm saying R&B music reaching stadiums, you only have very few people. So there's a big difference between arenas and stadiums.
Yeah.
I always say like arenas is where basketball players play, stadiums football. So when you have like your Beyonce, she's R&B music. You have Rihanna that had definitely took place in R&B music. You have your Michael Jacksons, of course, but he made that switch over to another type, that R&B pop side, Bruno Mars. So there are a few artists, and I just feel like it just goes back to what I was saying about the recognition of R&B music being bigger than just this one specific sound. And when people think of R&B, they usually think of like, oh, you got to go to the 90s or you got to go to the early 2000s, but and absolutely so, but that's just a genre of R&B. So I feel like, changing the narrative will help make R&B push R&B back to that main scale that where pop was and everything like that, more commercial. But I will say props to Usher for landing the Super Bowl, because I feel like that's a huge win in R&B music, and I feel like that's going to be the resurgence for people to see R&B music on bigger stages.
Just to follow up with you, like, do you think that, R&B, because you make that type of music, which is refreshing as well,
Mm-hmm.
do what you do. But do you think that type of like slow paced music, has the same longevity now like it did back then?
I think it's coming back around. I think the people that are really in it to make music that's supposed to last it's definitely doing that. You have like your Lucky Days, you got your Snow Allegras, you got Her, that there's songs that they put out years ago that still come back around. And that's the whole point of being just a generational artist. I think that's the duty, and that's the check box that you have to check off in order to call yourself that. So I feel like real music is definitely coming back around, and that's no shade to what's out, because I do love all the types of music. I feel like we're just experimental at this point, and which is great. But I do feel like a lot of people are getting tired of the phase of, we've been in the trap phase for a long time, and we've been in the certain pockets for a long time. So I do feel like people are looking for that real musicianship, and that just that certain presence in our music right now.
I know you've been on tour with August Alsina. You were recently on tour with Victoria Monet, but you've also headlined your own tour as well. So,
Yeah.
Are there things you do differently, to prepare yourself for like when you're headlining your own tour versus supporting a tour? Like, are you more nervous, excited?
I would say it's the same, because even if I'm opening up for a concert or somebody else's show, it's the opportunity to gain new fans.
Okay.
So it's very important for me to be just as on as I am when I'm doing my own show. Now I will say, when I'm headlining my own shows, it's kind of like whatever, I can do whatever I want up here. I could. If I want to just sit in silence for 10 minutes, we could do that. But that's probably not a good idea. But there is that satisfaction of, hey, I'm on my own tour, and hey, I want to flip the script, rather than opening up for somebody and it's like, okay, you only got 20 to 25 minutes. But I would say the professionalism and the execution is exactly the same. You have to be on point for both.
Like you stated earlier, you've been doing music most of your life, since you were a little kid. Now you've been in the industry since you were a teenager, and you're currently 28 now.
We ain't got it.
Yeah, you're in your adulthood.
I'm in my 20s.
You're in your 20s. You're in 20s now. So is there anything that you learned, whether it's musically or professionally or personally, about yourself after being in entertainment all these years?
You know what? Very interesting. That's a great question. I would say, for me, this industry has really just taught me that I'm just now getting to know who Tone Stith is. And for a long time, I would say I first joined the industry for real, I would say 2015, like when the stuff started going down with Chris. And I would say at that time, I was still very impressionable. And there was a lot of things that I was like, oh, okay, the sound of the industry is going in this way. Bryson Tiller dropped Trap Soul. So I'm like, okay, the sound is going this way and it's going this way. I need to follow this. But in my heart, there was always a certain style of music that I always wanted to make. And I always shied away from it because I didn't know how it would be accepted.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I'm finally at this point in life where I'm like, okay, there's no more, life is short. We don't know how much time we got here. So why not, just go for it and do everything that I really love and learn from, people like Mike, people like Prince, my mom, people like Shaka Khan, just different places that I always pull from and put that into my music and put it out. So I'm at this point in my journey now where, I do not second guess the gut feeling that I get. I know that God is using me as a vessel, so I'm very, focused and driven in that matter. So yeah, now, this year is gonna be really fun because I feel like now I get to spread my wings and show people, what I really got going on.
These next set of questions are lightning questions. So this is
Ooh.
just so your fans get to know you a little bit more.
All right,
Just
let's
the
get it.
first answer that comes to your head.
All right,
So you ready?
let's get it.
So if you had to define your purpose in one sentence, what would it be?
My purpose is to be a generational artist and superhero for our Black culture.
A goal for 2024.
Goal for 2024 is have an international tour.
Your relationship status.
Ooh, I mean, these songs about somebody.
Okay. If you're in trouble, who's the first person you will call?
It's gotta be my dad. It's gotta be my pops.
What is something that most don't know about you, but would be surprised to find out?
I think now that I'm taking this huge liking into photography,
Are you the one that's taking your pictures? Like,
I am, and somebody else too. But I like to edit,
Okay.
and I'm getting into this like, oh, okay, I see how it's captured, and like, okay. I gave one of my cameras to one of my close friends, and it's messed up. He probably gonna see this interview, but some days I'll be like, yo, I wish I probably could get it back.
So who would you say is the king of R&B?
Oh no. Okay, for me in my life, the king of R&B is Prince.
Okay.
Because I feel like I said earlier, and I gotta elaborate. Somebody's gonna be like, the king of R&B is Prince. But because, like I said earlier, R&B is bigger than what we've been boxed into by others, and I feel like Prince has touched on R&B. He's touched on rock and roll. Like, he could play everything, and I think he just really pushed the barrier for R&B music and people like myself that are really inspired by that type of sound. Props to Tizo Touchdown too. I love what he's doing because I feel like he's also pushing the R&B boundaries too. So, but I would say Prince is definitely the R&B king in my book.
So, if you weren't doing music, what would you want to do as a career?
I'll be an architect, but in structural, like, buildings and designs and things like that. I just love that.
A regret you have in life?
I don't have any regrets. I think they're all just learning experiences.
Something you are super proud of doing?
I'm super proud of following my dream and believing in myself at a young age. And, when I was in high school, I didn't do the SAT. I didn't put my name down for a list. And I remember my parents was freaking out. They're like, you're not doing the SAT. You gotta go to school. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm not gonna go to college. And that was a battle. But the year after that, that's when I ended up getting signed.
All right, so if you were in a room with everyone you've ever met, who would be the first person you will look for?
Ooh, that's a good question. It might be my best friend.
A guilty pleasure.
A guilty pleasure. Oh, you know what? Since I've been trying to cut carbs and do right, I gotta say eating burgers, but with the bun.
With
with the bun.
Okay, and then if someone were to give you a box of everything you've ever lost, what would be the first thing you would try to find?
I would try to find old video footage of when I was younger and I was just dancing or doing anything that was creative. I would try to find that.
Well, that's all of them. So, your fans know you got much more. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for being with me today. But before you go, I like to play a game with my guests. So I have 3 letters.
Okay, I'm gonna go with S, I'm gonna go with A, and I'm gonna go with T.
So using those 3 letters, I want you to find 3 words to describe who Antonio Stith is. Not Tone Stith, but Antonio Stith. And then say why you picked those words.
I would say sarcasm.
Okay.
for the first one. Sometimes it's not caught. So I'm like, oh, I gotta remind people that I'm being sarcastic because they might think I'm serious. But I feel like that's just the best way to get through life. Like it's just not being too serious. It's like, to me, it's like the opposite of serious. So sarcasm. Um, ooh, A. What words even have A?
Gotta make you think.
Okay. I would say I would say anonymous
Okay.
in this next chapter because the music I'm making is going to be different from what I put out. It's like this anonymous approach where I'm just kind of I've been sending these songs to a lot of people and I'm just like, what you think? You know, with like, you
Okay.
know, what's your feel? You know, the world is like a secret almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's for A because I can't think of any more A words. um, T. I know this is like the probably well, I would say teacher because I feel like I said earlier, I'm taking on this responsibility to prove that R&B music is bigger than the box that people put it in. And I want to be that teacher for the younger generation. Somebody that's advocating for, you know, for teaching moments, for teaching information and teaching about love and just teaching about different things of life and just to be that superhero. So I'm in my teacher phase also, which is kind of crazy because I don't like school.
I want to point out that you picked SAT and you didn't take any
Right,
into that too. So
right. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, huh.
that's also something I don't know, but yeah. But thank you again for joining Liz's room. Please let everyone know where they can find you online.
Thank you, Liz. Everybody can follow me. You can find my music at ToneStith across the board on everything.
There you have it, everyone. Make sure you follow him. You can check out all of Tone Stith's music on all platforms. I promise you, you will all love it. Now, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Elizabeth White, and I will see y'all again in Liz's room.